And that has a lot to do with, we called him out in the last episode, but Josh Butler, the editor, just knew how to find the song and just get that moment. And that was one of my favorite music moments on the show.
Well, I'm just going to keep calling out scenes and see what it brings up. But season 2, and it is because of Catherine, has what I consider maybe one of the most heartbreaking breakup scenes in the history of the Vampire Diaries, when Jenna stabs herself and Stefan and Elena break up. And Paul, you destroyed me. I'm scared to ask about this.
You're a meme. That's a meme. Your cry face.
You are a meme.
I know it's not as bad as James Van Der Beek's.
Oh, no.
I love that scene.
The person who was directing that was Baring. John Baring. And I just remember, he's a director who likes to do lots of takes, like lots, sometimes 10, 12, 14, which is very unheard of in television, frankly. Network television, there's a schedule and you don't really do that many takes. I don't know if we did that many, but I remember doing at least 4 that were pretty good, but I also was dealing with a couple things in my personal life. So I was kind of didn't really want to go to dark places because I was trying to keep my head above water in real life, frankly. And so Baring kept pushing me. I certainly didn't confide in him, but maybe he sensed I was going through something. And so he really wanted that on screen. And I remember just getting a little bit angry at him, even though it was his job. And sure. That I would do the same as a director. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's when you're creating a film or television. The whole point of it is to be honest and pure. Otherwise, what the hell is the point? I was still a young actor and I kind of was still sort of guarding my feelings. And I just remember being all right, F it. I'm not going to curse. I feel like this is PG. F it. I'll do it. I'll just go. I'll go to my personal place. So that crying and all that that whole breakup was, my own dealing with my own stuff essentially on screen, exploited, which is what acting is. And then, I remember after we shot it, I was a little relieved, but then also a little bit angry that I had to deal with that. And then I had to go home and deal with that. But at the end of the day, it's on screen. It works so great for the role, for the scene. And I would do it again in a heartbeat because, that's what all the great actors do. So, hey, Greggy, no, that's my dog. He doesn't want me to go to the dark place. He's worried about me.
Oh, that's such a good thing. I feel wait, Paul, now that we have you, because this was a question I had for Julie and Kevin in season 1 this was my favorite answer to this, because at the end of the pilot, when Stefan comes to Elena's front door to check on her, and then she invites him in, it's at the very end of the pilot, you're on the verge of tears. So of course I'm talking to Julie and Kevin and I'm it was such an amazing choice from Paul. And they're we're pretty sure it was so cold, his eyes were watering. So do you remember?
It's vague memory of you being I can't get my eyes to stop watering. I don't know if I made it up.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't know if that was tears or me. I don't know.
I will continue thinking it was a fantastic Paul acting.
Thank you. I'd prefer you think that.
Okay, good. That's settled. Okay, well, let's talk about the entrance of the originals, which obviously starts with Elijah, which, Julie, you all have talked about this a lot, but so he was supposed to die at the end of that episode, right?
Yeah, I think originally when we wrote it, we were, the plan was to kill him. And then we thought, well, actually we could use this villain as a bridge villain until we introduced Klaus. And so we just started keeping him in the story so that we were just kind of filling time because we didn't want to have the Klaus reveal until the end of the season. He was scripted to really, truly just be a mid-season little mini arc villain. And then he was Daniel and everything changed.
That happened a lot, didn't it? Where people would come in for a quick little whatever, and then you guys would fall in love with them and write a whole spin-off series for them?
Yeah, it did. I mean, he's certainly the one that like made the most impact. I think he was so precise and had made such a choice about who this character was going to be, and it was just so delightful.
To whom it may concern, you're making a great mistake if you think that you can beat me. You can't.
I remember the day he had that big thing in his
Yeah.
I have a photo of him with that because I've known Daniel for years, and I knew Daniel from Vancouver from like a decade prior. I was doing a TV series called Wolf Lake for CBS. And I remember like meeting Daniel through friends, and we stayed in touch. So then sure enough, he showed up 10 years later. And I just remember he has a presence for sure. Like I definitely remember him walking in with the suit and like, oh, this is cool. This is going to be like an interesting character. And then boom, then he got his own spinoff.
But Paul can take partial credit for Joseph Morgan. You can tell that story.
Yeah. I get intuitions about people, like I can just sort of sense. And I remember Joseph Morgan, I met him just socially. He was dating a very good friend of mine. And I met him and I just had a conversation with him. I didn't even ask him about acting. Like, it was just like a conversation. And then I remember thinking, oh, he's an interesting guy. There's something about him that's kind of, I don't know why, but I think this guy's talented. I don't know why. I just had that kind of intuition. And we were all having dinner and Julie was telling me we need to cast this villain essentially. And we're having a hard time. And I just remember being like, you know what? Check out this guy. I had a conversation with him and I think he might be an interesting choice. And you said, okay, cool. I'll send an email to casting. I didn't think anything was going to come of it. But you actually did send the email to casting and you guys met with him. And did he read for it?
Yeah, he read. Yeah, he put himself on tape.
Okay, that's what he put himself on tape.
Yeah.
Okay, and then he got the part. So obviously he got himself the part, but I don't know if he would have necessarily auditioned for it if it weren't for me.
Yeah, I don't know. We'd actually, funnily enough, have to ask Wesley and Greg how that went down. But I remember that conversation so vividly.
No, me too.
And then you being later, and when you heard Joe got cast, you're like, oh my God, that was my idea. I'm like, yeah, it was your idea. And it worked out. I mean, in an extraordinary way.
Yeah.
I feel like that happened a lot with Paul, like suggesting people and them getting on the show. And I remember being so deeply offended because I was like, oh, I want to suggest some people. And then I would like suggest people, but no one would ever get cast. So
you know who else?
Either you guys didn't care about my opinion or my friends weren't talented. I'm not sure which one it is. I finally got my moment though. It took me 8 years, but one day, remember I suggested the song? I like sent you a song, Julie.
Yes. This is the best. We were driving home. Yeah.
Yeah. In the finale of Vampire Diaries, the final episode, there was this song. I don't know why. I just like connected to it and I sent it to Julie and I was like, I don't know. I like this. I don't know if it'll fit or whatever, but just putting it on your radar. It hadn't even come out yet. It was like a friend's demo, chords demo. It's called Hold On. And I don't even think I think you sort of, I don't know if you listened to it, but you just forwarded the email to the sound guy, right? Or the music composer.
Basically, I heard the song because you were trying to play it in the car. And I feel like I was trying to play it and it kept resetting. It's because it was a Dropbox file. It wasn't a music file. So on the iPhone, if you're playing a Dropbox music file and if your phone goes to sleep, it starts the whole song all over again. So I couldn't get through the song, but I loved it. So yeah, just in that moment, just so I wouldn't forget, I sent it to our editor and our producer, Tony Solomons. And then I get home, this is weeks later, and going to watch my director's cut of the episode for the first time. And I get to that scene, that song, it's Court Overstreet. It's so beautiful. And I'm just sobbing. And I say to the editor, I said, where'd you find that song? That moment is so perfect. And he's like, you sent it to me. And I said, oh, well, good. I will take full credit, but it's really Nina's credit. Well, it's Court's credit, but.
Yeah. Court's the one that put all the work in. But I remember feeling like very proud that something made the episode at some point, even though it was stupid and small and whatever. But yeah.
Seminal.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the end of season 2. I guess it's the penultimate episode technically, but like the whole season, you're building to this enormous ceremony, ritual, whatever you want to call it. Klaus wants to break the curse. You guys are filming this. There's fire everywhere. It's this big epic thing. What do you all remember about filming that moment?
Oh, you weren't there. Oh yeah, you were. He showed up at the end. He showed up to try to save the day.
Yeah. Jenna dies.
The circle?
Oh my God.
The fire circles.
Wait a minute. Was this directed by Summers?
Summers. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. And this was another night shoot. And I just remember being exhausted. You know, I don't mean to make this all about exhaustion, but the show was very important to me and to Nina and to Ian because it was such a success and we all loved it and believed in it. So it's not one of these things where you just do everything lightly. You take it very seriously. And I just remember being I was dying. I was just like, I want this season to end because I'm putting so much into this, you know? And I just was tired. I was just tired. I just remember shooting and just being tired. That's all I remember. I know that sounds so boring. Do you remember, Nina? Like that was,
yeah. Especially by the time you get to the end of any season, I think we all felt the same way at the end of every season because after shooting 22-hour-long episodes, like I don't know if people, maybe they do know that it takes between 10 to 13 days to shoot one episode. We shoot nights for, I felt like 14 to 16 hour days on average. Cause if you include the travel time and the hair and makeup time and the actual 12-hour shooting day, plus the 1 hour lunch. So you're shooting 16 hours a day or working for 16 hours a day. And then it's 10 months of shooting and then traveling for press on the weekends and doing things like, thank God.
And then you have to learn your lines.
Thank God we did this when we were, and then once you get home, you're right, Paul, we have to like break down the scenes and work on everything. So it's another couple of hours. By the end of 10 months of doing this, you are so tired. And I remember getting sick at the end of every season, like so sick because your body's just kind of holding on. Trying to you're like tricking it into thinking it's fine. And then as soon as you relax, I just crashed every year. But it was so like, Paul's right. We were so excited and wanted to do the absolute very best that we could. So we put every ounce of our energy into it. We didn't want to disappoint the fans and we wanted to make sure that the episodes were the best television that they could possibly be. And that took a lot of energy and our personal lives suffered as a result of it. But when you're in your early 20s, in my case, like that was like work was my life, you know.
Same.
I loved it.
But that particular night was cold, I'm sure. I was also sad because Sarah was so sad to be leaving the show.
Oh yeah,
and that whole
forgot about
time
that.
Was just incredibly emotional. Like she had really personalized the character being written off, which it was not about her at all. Because Sarah Canning is an extraordinary actress. I mean, she is going to be out working and outliving us all. But it really had hit her hard emotionally because she had made friends and she had, formed a relationship. And so there was, it wasn't like a party. It was like a countdown, a death countdown. That was just a real bummer of a time. But boy, speaking of memes, you're a meme from that episode too, Nina, from the laying the rose at Uncle John's grave. With the birdie song playing. There's a birdie song. I don't know why I remember all the songs, but that one, again, is one of the top 5 music moments of the entire series.
That's Skinny Love.
If not the number one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. I remember that.
And the letter that Uncle John writes you, which Mike Daniels wrote, like in 5 minutes. It's just, that's just a great emotional payoff to the season, that episode. And then we had to figure out what the hell to do in the finale.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do like talking about the John moment though, because wasn't this, Julie, for a long time, season 2 was when Elena was going to become a vampire kind of until you all came up with the John twist, right?
I don't remember. I knew that like we had really, and you actually might be able to refresh my memory because I remember we were trying to hold off on making her a vampire as long as humanly possible. But yeah, did we get ourselves into a bind where we thought we had to deliver on it? earlier because that sounds like us.
When did I turn into a vampire?
End
of season 3.
I remember it was in book 2. So I just remember you talking about how like you would consider, but yeah, it was like when you figured out that John could save her life and she wouldn't have to, how she would come back.
Yeah. And that was, oh God, I love, that's so funny. I love the last couple episodes of that season. I love the last day when they go up to the waterfall and she says, I want to be a vampire, Stefan. I mean, you guys were doing such beautiful work. And we were like really like doing beautiful film work too. Like just always really wanting the show to look as good as it could, and just be full of scope and all the, cinematic magic. And that again, that's what makes it so hard is you're pushing for excellence on every level. And at 22 episodes, you just want to die at the end. You just want to die. There's just no fun. There's nothing good about it.
Yeah. But then you create something that we're talking about 10 years later. So
yeah, that is the good. Absolutely.
That is the good.
It's so funny in quarantine. I feel like a lot of people revisited or discovered the show for the first time.
Big time.
I found that like I'm getting recognized more with a mask and sunglasses on than ever before with no mask or sunglasses on.
It's from the masquerade.
Right. Because like people have been binging it all over again, and people who didn't have time before because life was too busy have been finding peace or distraction in our show. And so it's breathing a new life, I feel like.
I know, not to be like cheesy about it, but I totally second that. Like there was a moment where in the beginning I was getting recognized a lot. And then it kind of like, it subsided a little. And I was like, okay, cool. And then suddenly like in the last like year, it's like crazy. Everyone has watched the show. And I'm like, what's going on? There must be a resurgence, but it's exactly that. People are discovering the show again. It's crazy. There was an article that came out. It was the 15th most streamed show on Netflix in 2020, which is
really?
crazy. Yeah, which is crazy. And the show premiered 10 years ago, you know what I mean? So that's pretty major.
Longer.
What's that?
12 years ago.
12 years ago. Shit.
God, really?
Yeah, 2009.
Right. Oh my God.
Wow. It's a long time.
You guys, oh my gosh. I just had, like the end of your life when your whole life is supposed to flash in front of your eyes. I'm remembering like Nina in Vancouver on the pilot sneaking off to go snowboarding when she wasn't supposed to.
I remember
and I'm remembering like you guys in season 3 and The Reckoning getting to a huge fight on set because you'd reached your like breaking point of exhaustion with each other. And I got calls from both of you. I was in LA and I think one of you was like, you're probably going to hear from the other, but like, I just need to tell you that this is the last straw. And then years later, you're like best friends hanging out all the time, traveling together. Like, it's just such a great arc.
So funny. I remember hanging out when we were doing the pilot in Vancouver. I remember hanging out with Ariel Kebbel, who was shooting a different pilot, all at the Sutton place. And I knew her from my girlfriend at the time. And I just remember like, who would have thought that later she would get on the show and she'd become this fan favorite, playing Stefan's best friend or whatever. It's so funny. Oh my God. The show would have been so different if it aired if it shot in Vancouver too. It would have been a completely vibe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody was so
we would have been so cold.
Atlanta. We would have been so wet.
Yeah.
I mean, we were plenty cold anyway.
I know, but we would have been more consistently cold for longer periods. You know what I mean?
Just like the chill in our bones.
We at least had like 3 or 4 months of cold and then a whole bunch of sweating, like a lot of fans on set. Not like fans as in viewers, but fans as in to cool us down because Hotlanta is a real thing in the summer.
Yeah.
When was your 21st birthday? Was that season 2 or season 1?
Season 1.
Okay. And
I was 20 when we did the pilot. Yeah. That was wild.
Nina's known for her generosity of adventure, and like, so if she wants to go have one, she will make you come along with her, but she'll like set the whole thing up. So for her 21st birthday, she just got completely hooked up in Vegas and took the entire cast, and then also Kevin and I flew in, and Breslow I think flew in from LA. And we had a whole Vegas weekend for Nina's birthday.
That's where Nina, that's where our epic hair photo is, where
that's right, in
the suite.
That was especially wild because we shot what we mentioned at the beginning of this episode. We shot a Saturday, which is, we had like a 5 p.m. call. We wrapped on Friday and then wrapped at like 7 a.m. on Saturday. And the whole cast like got in a car. We drove to the airport and got on like a 9:30 a.m. flight, flew to Vegas, still having not slept from the shoot, landed, went to I think an indoor skydiving place, did that, went to the room, had dinner, went out, got crazy on Saturday night, celebrated, then got on a plane. I'm pretty sure most of us didn't sleep Saturday night either. Sunday morning, we all got on a plane with either 0 or 2 hours of sleep, landed back in Atlanta that night, and then had to be on set at 5 a.m. on Monday morning.
Oh God.
It was, again, the only things you can do when you're 21. I don't think we would have survived otherwise. I don't know how the writing room was on Monday morning for you and Kevin, Julie.
Yeah, that's rough. It's all rough. And then she took us to the Super Bowl, which I think we've talked about too.
Yeah.
And,
God.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been to a couple Super Bowls with you, Nina. I don't know. I feel like, probably.
I really liked football for a minute.
Oh, amazing. All right. Well, we have to wrap, but thank you all so much for being here. This was so fun. And for everyone listening, we will be back. Episode 3 will be all about season 3.